Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show.
This is not a drill.
With your hosts, Joey and Hallie Baird.
It is not a drill. This is the real deal. The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, your destination for all things gardening. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, 900 plus videos, and a whole lot more. Come to planting trees, whether you're fruit trees, nut trees, ornamental trees, shrubs, hedges, or bushes. There's some things that you need to know to do it safely, to do it right, so you don't have problems down the road. Come years to come. So whether you're going to plant a fruit tree, a nut tree, an ornament, whatever, here's some steps that you need to observe, to focus on before you just shove your shovel in the ground and start digging.
So the first one, I think, would be...
You got to call Digger's Hotline.
Call Digger's Hotline. That's important. Anytime you're going to dig, or whether it's for a garden, a tree, even a fence post, even your mailbox post, if you have one, you want to call Digger's Hotline.
It's a free service for you. Call 72 business hours. They'll come out. You call 72 business hours before you intend to dig, and then they will mark the underground utilities, your cable, your gas, your whatever it is, because thinking isn't knowing. I know most tomatoes can be red. I know radishes take 32 days to reach maturity. I think I might know where that's underground. Thinking isn't knowing. It's a great line from King and Queens, and it has a lot of validity to it. You can think you might know, but when you hit that 10,000 volt cable under the ground, it's not fun. You can die, and you need to know what is under the ground. In addition to that, you need to look up. You need to look right, left, front, and back to see what's there and what your plant that you're planting may interfere with. Not next year, but 5, 10, 15 years down the road. Right.
And you want to think about what the purpose is of that plant. Is it a shade tree or shrub or bush? Is it something that you're going to get fruit off of? If it's just for flowering, what are you doing with that plant? If it's something you're going to get fruit off of, you're going to want to put it in a place that you can access it. Don't put it back behind some other shrubs, and we're going to have to fight to go get and harvest that fruit.
We planted a cherry bush dwarf tree a couple of weeks ago. You can find that on the website. And it at max, we got it from Blue Mills. At max, it will get 6 foot in diameter. So what did we do? We put it 5 foot away from the porch. So when it gets 3 foot on one side and 3 foot on the other, we still have about a 2 foot buffer from the edge of the bush to the porch, so we can access, cutting grass, the water main, all that stuff. So we're not cramming it up against them, because it may look very cute and pretty right now, but in 5 years, now that tree is rubbing up against the window on the second story and causing problems, and you might just have to cut it down because it's messing things up. And what you plant, you need to know what you're going to plant, because, for example, a willow hybrid tree that most people will plant for a privacy fence, it can grow 8 to 10 foot a year and can get up to 80 foot tall. So if you just grab it at the garden center and plant it and not have any clue, that thing is going to go a little crazy and may interfere with other types of utilities or property, because it's growing 10 foot a year and can get 80 foot tall. That's a very tall tree, and it can grow very, very quickly. So that leads us into
the life expectancy. So you want to think about that. Is that something that's going to be there just for maybe 5 years, and then it's like a fruiting tree or a nutting tree? How long is that going to be there for, or how long will that produce fruit? That can make a difference for your decision as well. Or is that going to be there and outlive you?
Right. Is the tree going to outlive you? We've got a tree in the front yard of our home that was there. It's a pear tree. Don't know the variety. And people who, when we spoke to, it's been there as long as anybody can remember. It's about 40 feet tall.
Well, the house is 100 years old this year. And from what I understand is that there was a farm, because there's a barn on the land, and that there was a small orchard there. So that tree could be over 50 years old, if not older.
So you want to kind of think of that. Also, what do you plant in that tree? You kind of touched on this earlier. Also, some people just plant trees strictly for the color that it changes in the fall. Not all, you want to make sure that if you're looking for a aesthetic pleasing tree in the fall, you make sure you do your research, because not all of them change red, yellow, orange, whatever the color, are yellow. So you want to make sure that that's the case there. And this goes with bushes or shrubs too, the expectancy or what the purpose of, and also maintenance. Okay, we put the tree in the ground tomorrow, looks great. Put the tree, the bush, the shrub, looks great. You're going to have to do some maintenance. This is not, you're not in an open field somewhere. There's some maintenance and that has to be taken care of here.
Right, and you have to think about that, because if it's something that you want, if it's like a bush or decorative shrub or something, you might have to trim that.
And if you live in a situation, ordinances, homeowner association, there's some criteria in which you have to maintain an appearance to your property. And maybe you don't have those requirements from your municipality, your home town, or your homeowners association. Maybe you just want, maybe you take pride in your neighborhood, and you just don't want this thing to be wild and look like a wild bush on a farmland. You got to do a little maintenance to these things too. A lot of trees you don't have to, but the shrubs and the bushes, there's maintenance that's going to have to be required to a certain level.
Yeah, but even if you plant some fruit trees, there are diseases that they could, have problems with, or pests. So that's something that you want to be aware of. You want to think about that now. It may not happen to your particular plant, but it could.
And make sure if you're buying a nut tree or fruit tree, that that it works in whatever zone you're in. We're in zone 5 here.
Right,
in
you
Milwaukee.
probably don't want to try to grow an avocado tree here.
Yeah, or a banana tree. Get something that you're going to put the effort into, you're going to invest in, that it will pay you back. And a lot of these fruit trees, the fruit trees, typically 3 to 5 years you will begin to see production. Now some people you'll see, the first year and a half I got I got fruit off of it. So keep that in mind. And is it a fast growing, like we talked about with the willow hybrid, or is it a slow growing? Is it going to take 15 years to get 7 feet tall, or is it going to grow rapidly? What's the speed of this? And that can determine some factors as well when it comes to your planting your fruit trees, bush trees, or shrub trees. And again, like Holly said, I think the main thing to take away from this is just don't shove your shovel in the ground. You gotta do some prep here.
Right, and just don't go to the garden center or wherever and think, okay, I'm going to get this, this, and this.
Because they're pretty.
And, my so-and-so has one. Well, your so-and-so may live on 3 acres of land, and you live on a 1/4 acre. That's not necessarily going to work for you.
Yeah, these things are typically not really, they're not cheap. They're not like $2 or $3. They're an investment. And if you're going to go to the steps of beautifying your property or increasing the fruit production on your property, you should look at what is best for you. And just because there are some trees, there's like, for example, there's pear trees that produce pears, okay? There are some trees now on the market, and I believe cherry is one of them, cherry trees, that just produce the flowers. They have been hybridized to where they don't fruit produce. It's strictly just an ornamental flower.
Kind of like a cherry blossom tree.
A blossom, yeah. And there's no fruit. So if you're going to, and you do whatever you want, I don't see the purpose of investing in time and planting and maintenance of a tree that all I'm going to get is a bunch of pretty flowers for a couple of weeks a year. I want something in return for that if I'm going to put it on the property. It makes more sense that way when it comes to maintaining your property. And also maintenance. What kind of fertilizer? Do you need fertilizer? A lot of these trees, you don't have to do a whole lot of anything with it, but a certified arborist may be required to take care of some of the issues if you have problems with the upper part of the canopy. You just don't want to be shimmying up the tree with a chainsaw trying to maintain these problems, even with existing trees on the property. Yes, it's money, but how much is it worth the risk of climbing up the tree and falling out and getting hurt or dying?
Right, and many fruit trees will get certain types of blight, and that can be a common problem, so that is something you want to think about. That's another thing. If you're going to plant a certain variety, there are varieties that are more disease resistant and pest resistant, so that's something that you do want to consider as well.
If you're in the Milwaukee or surrounding areas, just tune your radio to 860 AM or FM 106.5. You can also find links on our Facebook pages, The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener and Home Canning. Our website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com, click on the radio tab at the top of the page, then click on the Listen Live button, and you'll have immediately access to our live program. Mobile devices work very well also. Go to your app store and download for free the TuneIn app or the Simple Radio app. Then search WNOV 860, save it to your favorites, and you can have access to our radio show live wherever you're at in the world. Our radio program will also have podcast replay under the radio tab several days following the live broadcast. You can find all of these links in the show notes below. Our show airs 9 to 10 a.m. Central Standard Time every Saturday, March through the end of October. And we want to thank our sponsors because without them, this would not be anywhere possible. You can find all of their links under the radio tab on our website at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com.
For more information, please visit the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com.